We got keys to the game on Sunday and Brad Spielberger from PFF.
You are Locked On Lions, your daily Detroit Lions podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's good, everybody? Matt Derry with you. It's a Friday, January 19th, and a Saturday, January 20th. It's Locked On Lions right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for checking us out wherever you get your podcasts, whether it's Spotify or Google or Apple or wherever. Watching on our Locked On Lions YouTube channel. We are getting close to 10,000 subscribers. Please hit that subscribe button, smash that like button, and check us out on YouTube. I don't know why I just said that. Locked On Lions today, proudly sponsored by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. Use code all lowercase LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. Follow us on Twitter at Derry Speaks, at Locked On Lions, Matt Derry Facebook fan page, on Threads at The Real Matt Derry, and also please watch us on our Locked On Lions YouTube channel. Thanks to our everydayers who are out there, always checking us out. Plymouth Jim Mulhern, John Eads, all of you. Thank you guys and girls for making us your first listen or watch and checking us out wherever you get your podcast. The legendary Brad Spielberger, analyst for Pro Football Focus, their cap guy. Guy knows everything. We'll have Brad on the program momentarily here. Shout out to Arise and Grind Fitness, by the way, in beautiful Woodmere, Ohio. All right, here we go. We're 2 days away, baby. Lions, Bucks at Ford Field. The Killer Bees, Todd Bowles, defensive genius, Baker Mayfield, everything quarterback, coming into town. You heard me yesterday on Locked On Lions and Locked On Bucks crossover on Thursday with James Yarko. I like the Lions to win this game. I think it's going to be high scoring. I do think there's going to be some success down the field for Baker Mayfield. Mike Evans is due to have a big game, but I think the Lions can score. I think the Lions can block. If they block Vita Vea and my guy, Kalijah Kancey, I think they'll be in good shape. I think they can run the ball. And there's something about that home field and Jared Goff and Amon-Ra St. Brown and Josh Reynolds and Laporta, who's much healthier this week than he was last week. Gibbs onto the backfield. I like the Lions in this game. I think they're the better team. I think they will be emotionally into this one, and the crowd's going to play a factor again. So we'll talk about that with Brad Spielberger. A couple of important keys to the game that I see. Number one, I love the fact that James Houston has been activated. Julian Okwara gone. How about that? Gone, but you need roster space. And you figure they're activating Houston to play him. And James Houston coming off the edge can be something that the Bucs are going to have to identify, because he is fresh, he hasn't played in months, and he can provide that outside rush on the other end, on the other side of Aiden Hutchinson, that this team sorely, sorely needs. So that is something to watch and something to get excited about. And I think a key to this game is some pressure on Baker Mayfield. Matthew Stafford had way too much time to throw last week, way too much time. And Nick Mullins has had too much time to throw the last few weeks against the Lions, and Dak Prescott. So getting some heat on the quarterback, forcing a turnover or two, is how I think the Lions can win this football game. Other key that I think is going to be big, I'm about to say it, is officiating. The Lions cannot allow, and the crowd cannot allow, a bad call or two to affect them in this game. Bill Vinovich is a very good ref. You guys will recognize him when he hits the microphone on Sunday. Bill Vinovich, veteran, refed a couple of Super Bowls, been around. But think about this for a second. Bill Vinovich, this season, the home team, when he refs, is 3-11-2 against the spread. Lions are 6-point favorites. I don't care if the Lions win by 1 or win by 100. Just win. But bear in mind, Bill Vinovich, home teams 3-11-2 against the spread. So road teams are in the game or covering or winning when Bill Vinovich is there. Lions cannot let the officiating affect them in this game. If there's a bad call, move on. If, things aren't going their way, keep going. I think the Lions did a great job of that this past weekend because when Jahmyr Gibbs is clearly out of bounds in front of the Rams bench and gets hit, the Lions kept going. When Taylor Decker clearly didn't false start and it was encroachment on the defense, the Lions kept going. They played through some of the poor calls in that game. So I think that is going to be a key, certainly, this weekend as well. Also, Lions secondary has got to tackle. It's just like last week. I thought for the most part, Romeo Okwara missed a bunch of tackles. But for the most part, I thought the secondary did all right in terms of the tackling. If the Bucs decide to go crossing routes, get Godwin, get Evans, Palmer in some space, those Lions DBs have got to wrap up. They've got to wrap up. And I think those would be three very important keys to the Lions getting a victory this weekend at Ford Field. Here's the other thing. You guys are going to be huge in this game. I think the crowd is going to play a massive role in the Lions' success against Tampa Bay. The Bucs are not as good as the Rams. They're not. The Rams finished with 10 wins. I know the Bucs finished with 9. Tampa's in a bad division. On paper, this is a game the Lions should win. And if somehow, some way, Green Bay was able to knock off San Francisco and the Lions could host not one, not two, but 3 playoff games, the NFC Championship game in Detroit, could you imagine what kind of atmosphere that would be next weekend? Oh my gosh. It would be absolutely crazy. Because we did the crossover yesterday, I didn't get a chance to bring this up. Everybody has seen this video from NFL Films of Matthew Stafford calling Kirby Joseph dirty as bleep on a couple of occasions on the video from last weekend when the Lions beat the Rams. And Joseph knocked Tyler Higbee out of the game and, of course, ended his season and tore his ACL. It's the second time that Kirby has gone low, hit a tight end in the knees, and some are calling him dirty. I'm not ready to – I'm going to say the same thing I said the other day. I didn't love that hit. Is Kirby Joseph, though, a dirty player? I don't think so. But I hope this weekend that those hits from Kirby are a little bit higher. That's all I'll say. All right? It's been twice now in about a month. He's ended a tight end season, tore his ACL with a helmet on knee hit. Joseph has said, look, the league is telling us not to hit up high or they're going to flag us. If you're anywhere near that helmet, it's going to be 15 yards. I'm trying to hit a guy low, jar the ball out, hit him, on his side or the thigh, that thigh pad, not in the knees. But unfortunately, the game is so fast and you're going low and the guy maybe hurdles. I'm not going to say Kirby Joseph's a dirty player. But those 2 hits on those 2 tight ends, I didn't like them. And I hope we don't see that again. All right? Didn't like the hits. Not going to call him a dirty player. I don't think he's intentionally trying to tear ACLs out there. But that Stafford video was something else, man. Wow. I'm just glad we're moving on and we get the Bucs this weekend. All right, Brad Spielberger coming up next right here on Locked On Lions from PFF. Let's do that. Hey, back with us this week is our friends at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers to roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or you get your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit. Only available to U.S. customers. And hey, Matt Derry here to tell you about FanDuel. It's the playoffs, baby. Come on. no better time to get in on the action right now with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers, you know what you're getting. $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. All you got to do is place a $5 bet. Win or lose, you're getting $150 for free in bonus bets, win or lose. It's easy. Go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. The app is easy to use. There's so many different ways to bet, like live same-game parlays. Find bets in the new Explore tab. Make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, which is the best way to find popular parlays, and more. It's not just NFL. You can get it on everything. NHL, NBA, and, of course, college basketball, which is going on right now. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. All right, as promised, our buddy Brad Spielberger is with us from Pro Football Focus on a Friday afternoon, getting ready for the Lions and the Bucs. Brad, great to see you.
Yeah, great to see you as always.
What do you think, man? Lions are 2 wins away from the Super Bowl. Can you believe it?
It's hard to believe. It's been a long time coming, but no, I mean, this was a team we thought was going to win the division, thought would be a legit threat in the NFC. We've been saying it all year. Thankfully, it's on tape. I'm not just, backtracking now. And, look, I think you've also seen even growth from what you expected from certain players. I think Jared looked really good in his first. That was because of our pre-show chat. Oh, I just called him Jared.
First names only.
Yeah, I think Goff in particular, made some throws, stepping up, avoiding pressure. Little intricacies to his game that really were positive to see. But yeah, another fun home game coming up. The ball don't lie. The football gods did not make a mistake with the Cowboys game. The Lions get to host another playoff game.
Your reaction to that crowd last Sunday night and just how the Lions played, and I guess now, can they ramp it up? Because we knew what that game meant to break that 32-year streak, but do you think they can keep the same intensity this week against, quite honestly, a lesser team?
I think they will. I really do. You'll love this anecdote. I talked to an agent who probably, if I had to guess, has been to all 32 NFL stadiums multiple times. He said it's the loudest environment he's ever experienced. Like, he was like, it was nuts. It really was like, I couldn't even hear myself think. He was, I think, near the tunnel at one point and then also up in the stands, and just said it was wild. So I know there was an added element of playing Matthew Stafford, all those things, but I don't see this Lions fanhood, letting up at all.
When you look at the matchup, with Tampa Bay, I mean, what stands out? What are you worried about if you're the Lions, and what do you like?
Yeah, what I like is this is a defense that has allowed an explosive pass rate as high as any team in the NFL. And in particular, the matchups that I like here are Amon-Ra St. Brown and also Sam Laporta. The Bucs have really struggled this year on players lined up in line. One of the worst coverage units in the entire NFL when you specifically look at guys lined up in line, where obviously Sam Laporta operates, and in the slot. They struggle in both of those facets. So I think that's going to be key. The play action to get their second-level defenders to bite, which has been Devin White's issue his whole career. It's why he's splitting time with KJ Britt. And Levante David, one of the more underrated players maybe in the last 20 years, but an older guy too. So attacking the middle of the field, attacking the second level, and then running outside the tackles. Like, they have Vita Vea, stop the tush push by himself against Philly. He's a monster in the middle, but you can run at these edges. So that's what I like on the offensive side. What I'm concerned about, a little bit of Aiden Hutchinson. I think at this point, he's so good that he's kind of matchup proof, but these Bucs tackles are really, really good. We know Tristan Wirfs, one of the best tackles in the entire NFL, and Luka Decky quietly had a second-year breakout on the right side. I'm hoping maybe the return of James Houston. I don't know if he's going to play. You can tell me. I saw he got activated. Yep. Maybe that lets them kick Aiden Hutchinson in more to rush from the 3-tech spot, rush from a 5-tech spot, and have some inside work. I think that could be huge, because if not, they could mitigate, obviously the best part of Detroit's defense.
Brad Spielberger with us from PFF. Yeah, the Houston situation's interesting. I mean, Julian Okwara gone, which is weird because at the start of the year and even in the preseason, he was like their best pass rusher. But you got to make room, and the roster's been deep. Be interesting to see if Houston does go. He's been to full practice all week. So I think that'd be a great addition for this team. And like, I'm sure you saw it Sunday night, Matthew Stafford again had too much time. Mullins, 2 of the last 3 games against the Vikings, had too much time. We know Dak Prescott, the one time he was really rushed should have been a safety with Barnes. Lions have got to get more heat on the quarterback. I mean, how do you do that?
And that's the big thing, right? Because, everyone's talking about the coverage unit, and I'm not saying they're blameless in this scenario, but if the Bucs have time, they're going to throw to Mike Evans against a bunch of shorter defensive backs. And he's going to, pick up some chunk gains. And Chris Godwin over the middle, I like that matchup more. You get Chauncey Gardner-Johnson back. You obviously have Brian Branch, Tracy Walker, Kirby Joseph. I like that matchup. But yeah, they need to get home with pressure. And I really do think a key might be getting Kaminsky, getting Aiden Hutchinson, getting those guys on the interior, because the split between these tackles and their guards and centers is as big as any in the NFL. Their interior is a problem for them. Their tackles are stout. So I think that's the number one answer I could give you.
Yeah, James Yarko was on with us yesterday from Locked On Bucs, said the same thing, that the outside's not an issue. It's the interior. And Aiden Hutchinson has slid inside on some third downs. And if that's what they have to do, that's what they have to do. Brad Spielberger with us from PFF. You're a betting man at times. What the line opened at 6.5, sitting around 6.5. What do you think? What did you think when you saw it?
I think it's interesting. So the look-ahead line for this game was 6.5 to begin with. And obviously Detroit had a good win. Jared Goff threw for 10-plus yards per attempt. They ran the ball fairly well in that game too. The defense, though, also allowed 10 yards per attempt against Matthew Stafford. Did get picked on a little bit at times, but it was a bend, don't break. They obviously held up really, really well in the red zone. Whenever the Rams crossed midfield, they had to really fight to get first downs. But I was just surprised there hasn't been much of an adjustment, because the Bucs really did soundly defeat the Philadelphia Eagles. And I know that's a reeling team. They have not played well for, 2 months at this point, a bunch of injuries, all those things. But I was a little surprised it didn't move to maybe 5.5, 4.5 range. I will say the over 48.5 is very enticing to me. I think both teams are going to move the football here effectively. Obviously, hopefully Detroit more so than Tampa. But I think both offenses are going to play well.
St. Brown had 12 catches in week 6 back in October and just lit up the Bucs. You mentioned when the Lions go 12 personnel with a couple of tight ends, they run that play action. I know Greg Cosell was talking about it. It's been money, and that's where St. Brown lives under there. They bring in Winfield up. Will there be some stuff deeper for Williams, Jameson, because of that? How do you view what Todd Bowles is going to have to do?
So he's been great. Going back the last couple of playoffs now, his week-to-week game plans come playoff time vary wildly. He is historically a single high safety, kind of shell guy. He'd want to bring, in theory, Antoine Winfield down to make plays near the line of scrimmage, make some more splash plays. But you also then saw, going back to the Kansas City Super Bowl, he was sitting in two high shells the entire time, even against some of the Rams with Matthew Stafford back then. He really pivots. So I think you are probably going to see more, trying not to let those explosives happen. You mentioned Jameson Williams, and so I think you have to kind of eat underneath. And that's, again, why I really do like Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Sam Laporta. The last piece is he's going to bring pressure. We know Jared Goff, like I did say, I think he looks better right now under pressure than he has in a while. But that is kind of the Achilles heel. If you can get home on him, you can at times cause him to, some shaky footwork and miss some throws. This offensive line is a huge test. It's not a great pass rush unit, but Todd Bowles, there's a stat for PFF. He had 11 unblocked pressures in that game, the most in a game we've charted. He was dialing things up and just confusing the Eagles' offensive line.
Ben Johnson, 4 interviews in 2 days as he's prepping for this game. Is that a concern? What do you think of that?
It's interesting. Obviously, there was, the scandal, maybe a bit strong of a word, but last year, Jonathan Gannon, goes to the Arizona Cardinals. They end up sending a bunch of draft capital to Philadelphia because Philadelphia felt like he was, distracted before the Super Bowl. So I think because of that, I'm sure there's been a lot of teams being very careful with how they go about this. Look, they probably are hopping on Zoom and talking for 3-4 hours. And like you said, it's different teams. Ben Johnson has to prepare himself and get ready for all these things. I do think, though, that he understands the moment in front of him. I think the biggest thing for me with him is, look, he turned down jobs last year. He knows that he is kind of in the driver's seat and he can't be too cocky and not do his homework, but he also can be patient, can say, look, I'm trying to win and achieve the ultimate goal here. We can circle back when we're done, hopefully in 3 weeks.
Brad, is Kirby Joseph a dirty player? Stafford says he is, obviously.
Stafford made his opinion very clear. It's just, my thing with that is it's just impossible to play defensive back in today's NFL. It's tough. I understand the hit on Tyler Higbee looked very similar to the hit on TJ Hawkinson, but that is being coached into the DBs. And Dan Campbell talked about it. And that's a tight end who played in the NFL, who's a former player. The entire staff is former players. They have a level of respect, I would imagine. And again, I mean, it's a tough, hard-nosed sport, but that's just how you have to play now. And we've heard guys like Gronkowski come out and say, yeah, I'd rather a DB dive at my shoulders and maybe hit me in the head than dive at my knees. You can't do that in today's NFL. Joseph didn't even draw a flag. And if you go high, it's 15 yards, automatically. So I'm not going to say that about him. It's a tough sport, and I don't think it's malicious. It just, unfortunately, he's injured a couple guys recently.
All right, we want to ask Brad a little bit about the other games. Could there be a possibility of the Lions hosting not one, not two, but three playoff games? Can the Packers pull this off? We'll ask that to Brad coming up next as well, right here on Locked On Lions. And we're brought to you today also by our friends at PrizePicks. Oh my God, daily fantasy sports that is so much fun. And it really is great. All you got to do is pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you watch the winnings roll in. It's something a lot of fun to do, especially this weekend when you got games on Saturday or Sunday. If you don't have a rooting interest, you're not sure about the numbers and the over-under and all that, why not PrizePicks? Pick some players and root them in. We talked about it yesterday. What about Christian McCaffrey? Is he going to go more than or less than 75 yards? Patrick Mahomes, more than or less than 2 passing touchdowns? Well, Baker Mayfield, did what he did last week with 3 touchdowns? You can bet on all of that at PrizePicks. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types are what makes PrizePicks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. It is fun. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use the code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. Use that code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks, daily fantasy sports made easy. Brad Spielberger, Pro Football Focus. Check out his stuff at pff.com. Had Trevor Sikkema on earlier this week. Always love talking to Brad as the Lions get ready for a 3 o'clock start Sunday against Tampa Bay. What about the games Saturday, Brad? And how do you kind of handicap those?
Yeah, I mean, these 2 upshot young quarterbacks have been a ton of fun to watch. I suppose not super fun to watch Jordan Love, maybe get the baton passed to him from Aaron Rodgers. But, I mean, C.J. Stroud's been remarkable. I was really, really impressed by his ability to beat that Cleveland Browns defense so convincingly. He's been great all year, but he did have some pretty large splits for us against zone and against man. And the Browns led the NFL in man coverage. He had our 3rd best passing grade against zone, 26th against man, and still shredded up that Cleveland defense. So he was great. And Jordan Love, like I said, unfortunately, you could make a case he's been the best quarterback in the NFL for the second half of the season through this weekend. The off-platform stuff, the outside of structure plays that he's making, but also getting the ball out very quickly. I do think, I'm not taking anything away from him. He had some receivers running. I think you and I could have hit some of those passes with how open those guys were. But no, I mean, they've both been awesome. They're massive underdogs for a reason in these matchups. And I think both favorites in the Niners and Ravens advance. But I think they're both going to be really good games.
Yeah, it's interesting. And obviously, if Green Bay wins and the Lions win, the Lions would host again, which is insane. But the Packers are they playing with house money? Can they play loose? And do you think San Francisco could get tight?
I think that is a big part of it, really. I mean, this is the youngest offense in NFL history to make the playoffs. Like, I don't think that the moment's not too big because they don't, like you said, they're just kind of playing loose and it's all gravy. No one expect them to be here. Even internally, probably halfway through the season when things were not looking good on both sides of the ball, they probably didn't think they were going to be in the playoffs. So, yeah, I think there is an element to that. There's a lot of stats get thrown out like, oh, this team is more experienced in the playoffs. There is no correlation between playoff experience and winning playoff games, and we kind of talk about it every year. So, I don't think the Niners will be tight, though. I mean, they've beaten this Green Bay Packers team in the playoffs, X amount of years in a row. They match up really, really well. I think they will once again have the advantage here. But, yeah, I'm not counting Green Bay out of anything.
What about Sunday? It's going to be so weird to see Patrick Mahomes on the road for a playoff game. That's almost unheard of, and it's certainly never happened. But Buffalo's been shaky. I mean, they looked great at the beginning against the Steelers and almost let Pittsburgh back in that game. But how do you view that one?
So the road thing is important insofar as the Chiefs have a lot of motion in their offense. There is an element of timing to a lot of what they do, and that gets harder when there are crazy Bills Mafia fans screaming when you're in the huddle and at the line pre-snap. So that is a disadvantage. But for me, I think 2 days of extra rest and then all the injuries we saw Buffalo sustain. Do they have Gabe Davis at receiver? Do they have all the corners and linebackers that got hurt in that game? And if they don't, I just think Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce over the middle in particular will be able to do enough. I think Patrick Mahomes goes in as an underdog too. Probably the first time he's been a playoff underdog either. I think they pull off the upset in Buffalo.
So that's the underdog. That's the underdog you would take this weekend, huh?
It is. I don't think Tampa's going to win, but I like them plus 6.5. But I wouldn't take their money line. But the Chiefs, I think they're going to win the game.
Final thing, this city and what's going on here is just it's such a buzz and it's so crazy. But it's why the NFL is king, right? Like, what I can't even imagine what Packer fans are going through, and it's got to be so excited with Jordan Love and really playing with house money out there. Here in Detroit, it's just crazy. This is the best time of year, is it not?
It's the best time of the year. I think this weekend in particular is my favorite weekend too. Obviously, we love the volume. We love having Red Zone and watching a million different games. But I think the divisional round, you get the true cream of the crop, the best teams left in the NFL. Of course, some underdogs like a Bucs would score it through, but that's a division winner playing good football all through December. But yeah, it's usually good football, good games. The narratives are there for a lot of these teams. It doesn't get much better than this, and I'm glad the Lions are a part of it.
Brad, great to see you. Thanks so much as always, and we'll do it again soon.
Sounds great. Good to see you.
Brad Spielberger, Pro Football Focus on Twitter at PFF_Brad.